Lyn Alden, fasten your seatbelts, money mavens. We're about to take a whirlwind tour through the bustling streets of Dollarville. And oh, the drama. Affairs with interest rates, feuds with rival currencies, and scandals at the Fed. But the real showstopper, the end of our tour, reveals the dollar's most unexpected BFF. Hint. It's digital and loves a good blockchain. All right, folks. Gather around because things are about to get recession-y. Yeah, I made that word up. But you know who didn't make stuff up? Lyn Alden. She's pulling back the curtain on the whole US dollar oops we did it again saga. Now the feds? Oh, they're over there, trying every trick in the book. Raising interest rates, checking their horoscopes, probably throwing darts at a board. And still, with the debt and trade deficits, they're paddling upstream without a paddle.
And as Bitcoin stays with its very stable and decreasing monetary issuance, I think over time that appeals to a larger and larger global audience, and then it starts mattering. And the way I'd put it now is that in any one country, obviously the local currency is by far the dominant medium of exchange. But if you think of assets that you can bring globally that are money-like, I think Bitcoin is already in one of the top 10.
So this Lyn Alden? She's not just any financial whiz, she's the brains behind Lyn Alden investment strategy. I guess if you're great at something, just slap your name on it, right? Kudos, Lyn. Around the globe, countries are doing the slow fade on the US dollar, Saudi Arabia, India. They're ghosting us, folks. And then there's the BRICS squad planning a currency glow-up. Oh, intrigue. Oh, and Lyn's dropping some hints. Hyperinflation might be the comeback tour nobody asked for. Let's hope we don't see that rowdy 9.1% gate crash the party again.
The end result is likely inflation. So generally when a country has debt denominated in its own currency, it's able to finance things with its own central bank as much as it wants. It's not that default's the issue, unless it has, again, some sort of like policy, unless it kind of does it to itself, due to its own conflictedness. So default's not really the issue. It's more about structural inflation or waves of future inflation. So I would say what's unsustainable about it is that the past 40 years, you've had rising debt as a percentage of GDP in the public level, but that was offset by structurally falling interest rates. And the challenge going forward is that, even if interest rates aren't going up structurally anymore, if they're just going sideways from here or they're chopping in a big range, now you don't have that interest rates going down offset for the larger and larger structural deficits. And so now we're seeing them, I think, more directly. That basically as debt as a percentage of GDP keeps going, as our deficits very large relative to typical history, especially history outside of a recession, as those things keep inching up, and as you have structurally higher interest rates, it basically shows that we're kind of stuck in almost like an emerging market type of situation where these deficits are going to keep piling out into the economy, and there's really no will from Congress to address them because they're more structural. They're not based on temporary COVID policies or things like that. They're Social Security, they're Medicare, they're military spending. These are the more structural kind of baked into the cake issues, and I think that's going to basically just pour out over the next 5, 10, 20 years. It's funny. So those of us in developed countries, we see these kind of mild upticks in inflation, so high single-digit inflation. That's kind of our biggest worry. I think that the biggest challenge is for the majority of the world that lives in developing countries, because they have the situation where their political leaders have to effectively manage two currencies, right? So they're managing their own local currency, and then they're also managing their relationship with the dollar. They're a lot of times their debts are denominated in dollars. Their inputs, their imports and exports are often dollar denominated, and so they're managing those two types of currency situations. So, for example, if you were living in Egypt over the past, say, 2 years, you just got your currency cut in half relative to the dollar, and so all of your savings and your ongoing wages are devalued. All right, so that's kind of an example of where it impacts people in the real world. For those of us in the developed market, we only experience it around the margins. In this recent period, I think, and we're going to have further kind of rounds of this, periods of inflation affect us, as well as when you try to send, for example, money globally.
Let's be real. Most of us are tucked in our beds at night, believing the US dollar's as invincible as our favorite superhero. But history's shown us that even Superman has his kryptonite. Remember the Egyptian pound or the Argentinian peso? They're in the currency hall of oh no. Now the Fed's still at it, printing money as if it's their new hobby. Hey, it's a Tuesday, why not just print a few trillion? Flash to March 2023. Banks facing more drama than a reality TV show. And just when the credits are about to roll, enter the Federal Reserve with their "I got this" cape. And then, in the midst of the chaos, Bitcoin. This digital wonder child does a gymnastics vault, soaring from 15K to 30K. Maybe people saw it as the financial world's only adult in the room.
Determination as to what is a superior form of money in today's environment, whether it be Bitcoin or commodities or dollar,
Yeah, so out in the current landscape of available monies, I generally view Bitcoin the most favorably.
If they agree with this view that Bitcoin is a superior form of money, would already have instituted ways for everyone to allow everyone to pay with Bitcoin, yet that's not the case yet. So what needs to happen to that for that to be the case?
I think that'll generally only be the case if Bitcoin is much larger and more adopted and more widely held and liquid. So generally you see, money serves as multiple different solutions. So it's store of value, it's medium of exchange, it's unit of account. And, generally it goes in that order. So, we shouldn't expect to see a lot of merchants accept Bitcoin unless a lot of people hold Bitcoin. So it's kind of like that flywheel that has to happen. And so I think at the current time, in certain countries, it's more of a medium exchange. But for most people, I think the most users of it are holding it as a long-term store of value that's globally accessible wherever they go. So for example, if I hold gold or equities as a store of value or a house, I can't bring that with me globally, whereas Bitcoin I can. And so for people who that attribute is relevant to them, or they're looking at it as like a tech play, they think, okay, this is just structurally going to adopt over time and it'll appreciate for that reason. Right now it's in more of that store of value phase, but I think in general, until you have more people hold larger amounts of their cash balance in it, you wouldn't necessarily see a lot of merchant adoption. But I think it's mostly a matter of time, which is that if we 10x the number of people holding it, if more people hold a larger amount of it, and part of it's just its own hardness. Basically, as fiat currencies keep diluting over time, and as Bitcoin stays with its very stable and decreasing monetary issuance, I think over time that appeals to a larger and larger global audience, and then it starts mattering. And the way I'd put it now is that in any one country, obviously the local currency is by far the dominant medium of exchange. But if you think of assets that you can bring globally that are money-like, I think Bitcoin is already in one of the top 10.
Now, plot twist. With the US dollar acting like it's in a soap opera, Bitcoin is emerging as the trusty neighbor everyone likes. And guess what's on the horizon? The Bitcoin halving event. It's not a new diet trend. It's all about making Bitcoin lean and mean. When there's less of it, it's worth more. Simple economics or just plain magic? You decide.
I have Egyptian currency, I have Norwegian currency in the drawer next to me, and if I were to go around in a 10-mile radius trying to find someone that will accept those, it'd be pretty challenging, whereas I could actually buy something in Bitcoin easier than I could with those monies, which of course is not the case in Egypt or Norway. And so, Bitcoin doesn't really have that center of density that most other monies have. But much like dollars internationally or gold coins internationally, I think it's already a pretty saleable international money, and it's just a matter of time before it becomes more entrenched, I think, on a denser level like that. The international exchange rate is 15.5 to 1, whereas you're trying to do it at 15 to 1 or 16 to 1, then one of them is overvalued in your country relative to the other. And so the one that ends up being undervalued either leaves the country because global arbiters come in and basically make use of that exchange rate differential, or people hoard it. They want to spend the overvalued money into circulation, and they want to hoard the undervalued money. And so Bitcoin doesn't have that exchange rate fixation issue. Instead, the kind of the artificial issue we have is that because Bitcoin transactions are taxable events, that I think serves as a form of kind of we call it Gresham's friction, right? If there's a friction on a good money, we don't want to spend it. So every time if I were to spend dollars of Bitcoin, if I want to spend the Bitcoin, I have to think, okay, I'm going to create a taxable event here that I have to register and, keep track of in my accounting. And so I think that as long as we have this environment where there's taxation on Bitcoin and Bitcoin is still a relatively niche asset, I think the predominant use case will be that more store of value. And I think only when there's, say, a very large percentage of people in a given country that are holding Bitcoin and basically saying, okay, I want to be able to spend this more, eventually the laws can change to reflect what people want to use as money. Another factor to consider is that I think most of the payment methods we're used to will still be here, right? So for example, most of these other things can serve as layers on top of Bitcoin. Bitcoin is more of a settlement network. It does have the Lightning Network for fast moving exchange as well. But I think that a lot of this is under the hood for most people, and we'll still have a variety of different ledgers that we can pay with. You can send your Cash App money to some, it's just a big ledger on Cash App, for example. Same thing's true with our credit cards and our bank statements. I think a lot of that will still be in place, and it's not necessarily that Bitcoin has to always move hands on chain in order to actually be a Bitcoin payment. So I think that over time, as more and more of our cash balances are in it, that eventually pushes towards a medium exchange, but that's not really the rush that we want to optimize for.
Well, that's the dollar and cents of it all. Yeah, I went there. If you managed to chuckle or learned a thing or two, give this video a thumbs up. Share your thoughts or just tell me your favorite currency joke. And come on, hit that subscribe button. It's one click for endless jests and insights. Till we decode another dollar dilemma, keep those banknotes crisp and those credit scores crispy.